Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Soul Tribe Podcast. Today is our very first interview. We're very excited. We're going to have with us Rachel Gitlevich. I think I pronounced that properly. But she's going to speak about her own practice. She's assists others with helping figure out what they want to do in life. We end up talking about Akashic Records. We talk about access bars, which Lorraine and I are just discovering exist, and we're so into it now that she spoke about it. But this episode gives a bunch of information about her path and what she's learned and how she's assisted others and how she still assists others. And I hope you like this episode as much as we liked recording it. Rachel's amazing, and she's very experienced and very intuitive, and she has so much to share. So enjoy. Hey, Rachel. Thank you for joining us today. We have with us Rachel Gitlevich. And there's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about, but just to start off, can you just give us a brief background of where you're from, where you live, and kind of where you got to where you are right now?
Yeah, totally. And thanks so much for the intro. And yep, exactly. You pronounced my last name perfectly. So thank you. My name's Rachel. I live in Chicago right now, and I am a full-time business owner. I run my own coaching business. So I like to tell people I help women take action on their dreams. So I do a combination of business coaching, mindset work, as well as I'm a energy workshop facilitator. So I do a lot of mindfulness seminars, but then I also incorporate Akashic Records into the work that I do, access consciousness, access bars, into some of my practice. So people kind of can choose what they want to work on, whether that is starting a new business. Sometimes I have people within career transition that come to me as well. And then also just people that want to know more about the energy work that I do. So it's kind of a combination of all of those things. But how I kind of came into this, my mom has always been in the energy world, kind of was introduced to Reiki when back in the 90s, and then started exploring. She was always on this personal development path. And I think just by association, I kind of got hooked into it. I always thought it was something super out there and weird. And then when I was kind of my mom's guinea pig for all of the different energy healing modalities, I was like, wait a minute, there's something here. You can't make this up. There's definitely something so cosmic about everything that is happening. So it's the things that you would think are miracles are they don't just happen by accident. So that's kind of how I started exploring more of my own personal development path and gaining more of that self-awareness around, what I feel would be worth it for me to keep exploring. And so I quit my corporate job about a year and a half ago. My background's in IT recruiting, and I knew that I loved it at the time, and I thought, and it worked for me for a while, but after 4 years in doing kind of the recruiting game, it kind of became a lot more, instead of actually being I'm helping people, it became a lot more it felt like I had a bigger purpose. And so I kind of decided to just take the deep dive off of the big ass diving board and started my own business. So here we are.
That's so cool. And you said that your
Amazing.
mom was into Reiki in the 90s. I mean, she was like, that must have been when it was first, like, it wasn't even a thing then. So that's like huge.
Right. She's like OG.
I love it. I mean, we're definitely going to get into the Akashic Records and the access bars, which I'm super interested in hearing more about. But I guess there's a lot of people, especially I feel like with when I get Akashic Record readings, they hate their job. They don't like what they're doing. They are trying to do something different. What made you take that leap? Like, what made you make that decision? Because I'm sure it was huge and it was not something that was easy. What kind of made you push to do that, to start your own company?
Well, I started following a lot of different coaches online, and I actually hired my own coach at the time. And I just loved what coaching could do for people. And then I realized like it really encompassed everything that I love doing about my job itself. So I was kind of helping coach people through the interview process, help them write their resumes, as well as I would really kind of go above and beyond to make sure that they were enjoying their job. And if they weren't, I would kind of work with them to see what we could do about it. And so, I realized that although I was doing that in my job partially, I realized I could actually do that on a larger scale, within just, being able to kind of, instead of it being like calling people all day long, and like to try to fill these positions, I could actually be calling people and connecting with people in this way that I could actually, see that this is where you're starting and this is where we're actually going, rather than, hey, I'm calling about a specific position. Instead, now I'm calling and connecting and networking with people and helping them really feel more fulfilled in their lives. And so for me, that was one of my core values that I kind of realized is connection and helping people feel less alone. I love building that like genuine relationship with people and feeling like, I just have this ability to uncover what really people feel fulfilled about. And so I felt like that's kind of, you had mentioned like purpose and all of that within the, Akashic Records. People come to us with these questions about, oh, they're not happy in their jobs and like, what should they be doing with their lives? And I've felt that it really helps to kind of get to the bottom of like, seeing why they're unfulfilled and why they actually are looking. So that's kind of really interesting, like how we incorporate that into, because it's always one layer deeper. It's never necessarily what we think it is in terms of like, oh, I'm not happy in my job. Well, what's underneath that? And then what's underneath that? And then it's like, oh, I don't get to spend enough time with my family. And then it's like, okay, how can we help you get there? So it's always kind of going one level deeper. It's never surface level. And that's kind of what I'm all about. But yeah, I really just kind of it was kind of like I want to try this thing out. I know a lot of people don't necessarily go into like starting their own business with like, let me just try this thing and like, we'll see what happens. But that's kind of where I never really, and I don't know if this will like, how do I put it? I just basically was like, if I don't try this, if I don't start this now, well, then where will I be 6 months from now, a year from now, if I hadn't? So it's like, well, if I don't do this, then what? And like, for me, that feeling of like not trying was like, it felt like a heavy weight. Like it felt like, well, I'd still be in the same exact spot. I'd still be in the same job. And so for me, I just was like, well, let me just at least try and see what happens.
So when you decided to open up your own company and you started this idea, when you started it, did you already have incorporated it into your knowledge, the Akashic Records and like access bars and all these really cool, secondary tools in a way?
Yeah. So I would say it's interesting. I don't think the Akashic Records, no, I did not incorporate that right away. I still didn't have the confidence. I was opening my own records, but I didn't have the confidence to open up for other people. And actually, I've realized now, having opened up, like, I think upwards of like 50 or so different people, maybe even more than that. I've lost track, but I've noticed that, like, it's almost easier sometimes to open up records for other people than it is my own sometimes, because I feel like it's interesting to just see, um, we open our records all the time. And so I feel like I have to sometimes be like, okay, are these my thoughts or no? And then like believe that, like, it's actually what is coming through. But yeah, so I didn't incorporate the Akashic Records. I don't even think I incorporated Access Bars right when I first started. I really focused on career coaching right when I was starting out. And even that, I think it evolved, as like I would learn what I enjoyed, what I didn't enjoy, what was I really good at, and like what was like, combining what professional experience I had, and then also whatever, yeah, so combining my professional experience and as well as what I was passionate about.
Wow, that's awesome. Just a little side note, guys. Rachel and I opened each other's Akashic Records, and it was awesome. And I remember you mentioning that your mom is an Akashic Records teacher, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's exactly how I've learned. So she learned through one school, and then I think now, maybe 5 years ago, she opened up her own school. So she teaches through her own school of Akashic Records.
So you learned with her?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. Wow, that's cool.
So you got into the Akashic Records thanks to your mom.
Oh my gosh, 100% thanks to my mom. I don't know if I'd be like, yeah, if I would have found out about it otherwise. And I think even for a while, it's like, Mom, this is like so out there, like so woo-woo, like, and and then eventually I was kind of like, all right, let me try this thing out. And then I realized, like, whoa, this is really cool.
So how often do you use this tool with people?
So when you and I had traded, I was really heavily using the tool. So that was like a few months back. I want to say July or August.
Yeah.
I was using it with clients all the time. I had like a really big surge of interest in it. And then right now I just offer it with my clients. Like I do basically, we have our coaching sessions, and then there's also a session that's dedicated to Akashic Records. And then I also do like kind of one-off a la carte sessions. I would say I still use the tool pretty frequently, definitely way more than I was using it a year ago. But yeah, I would say it's definitely been, sorry guys. It's definitely been more so used now than I did before.
Wow. Yeah. I think it's more mainstream too now. Like people are really hearing about it everywhere. Yeah. And it's so cool because it's reaching the people it needs to reach, right?
Yes, exactly. I agree. I think now it's being featured on more and more podcasts and people are learning about it. And I think, yeah, in general, people are just more open to the energy world. So I find that so interesting and super cool. I think it's like people are waking up to consciousness.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think is like the most asked question when you do readings, or the most common thing that people tend to come and ask you when they do an Akashic Records reading?
I would say top two questions, definitely, what is my life purpose and am I on my path? And then I would also say sometimes I get asked about, significant others as well. So I would say like both of those are so common. It's like, oh, can you tell me about this recent relationship that I had? Like, what was that? Or am I with my, life partner that I should be spending the rest of my life with, or something like that?
Yeah, I think those are common questions, Lou, don't you think? as well
They
for
are
me.
common questions. Yeah, we did an episode about it and we talked about it at some point. But the funny thing is that first question, like, hey, what am I here to do or learn? And it's a question that sometimes you can't really get the answer to because you're supposed to kind of discover it on your own. It's almost like cheating if they tell you exactly why you're here. So it's funny. Yeah. It's
100%. Exactly. It is so funny. I think it's like, okay, a lot of times I think some people might expect like this roadmap. Like, okay, here you are, and this is your job right now. You need to quit your job right now and go renunciate yourself and, stop talking to every single person out there and just be this altruist. Like, no, sorry, that's not what we're going to tell you here to do. Like a lot of times what comes through is like, I don't know if you guys, yeah, it's like, so for me, sometimes the things that I've received is that like, you might be like, whatever is happening for you right now is somewhat of a distraction. But it's leading you to your path, something like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I've even gotten asked the question, like, I don't have a passion. Can you help me find one?
That's hard.
Oh man. Like I don't think they're not going to say, I literally, before I asked, I go, I don't think they're going to tell you, but I'm going to try.
Yeah. I mean, Lou and I think in other episodes we've spoken about this, and we feel like with every reading we get, we learn something about ourselves. Do you feel that way with the readings that you've gotten?
Absolutely. I can wholeheartedly agree with that, because I feel like so many times the people that come to us for readings, there's at least some level of like similarity, and like, or there's something that you two share. And so I feel like anytime I've done a reading for somebody, I'm like, whoa, that totally resonates with me on some level as well.
That completely covers what I wanted to ask you, which is, do you find that those that arrive for readings with you, if they're going through a similar situation in life at the current time, or something that you've already gone through before? Because it's almost like you vibe a certain way, and then you get that kind of person as someone to give a reading to, right?
Yeah, totally. It's kind of wild, like, especially the certain people that come at a certain time, because there's been certain people that I've like known about, like maybe I've been connected with on Facebook for a while, like months or maybe even a year or something. And I had never had like, we might even live in the same city, and I'd never had the opportunity to connect with them. And then one day, like, this person came to me for a reading, and they came into my life right at the perfect time, and it was just such an interesting thing that came up. And so I feel like that happens all the time, where it's like either something that I've gone through. Sometimes though, I'll say, like, I think I've also had people that maybe weren't as open to it, or maybe they are just like, they come into the session a little bit more closed off, because I've done, my mom and I, we've had booths at conferences. Or what's like an expo. We had a booth not too long ago. And so my mom and I were trading off, like reading people's records at this like Mind, Body, Spirit expo. And so at those things, you get a whole plethora of people that, like, they might like one modality, like they're all about crystal healing or sound bowls or whatever it is. And then like, maybe they haven't heard of the Akashic Records. They were just walking by. They're like, let's try this out. So sometimes I've noticed the people that are really closed off or actually want to make you wrong, it's a lot harder to kind of get a read, because it's like, well, they're not wanting to receive that information. So it's kind of like, I've even told that to people before when it was hard for me to open or read their records. I'm like, I'm not getting a clear read on this. Like, I'm being completely transparent with you. Like, is there something that's like holding you back right now? Or like, is there something you're like afraid of? Like, I'm just not getting a clear read. And so I just kind of address it in that way whenever that comes up.
Oh my God, Lorraine and I both got that. It's like, it's almost like they're putting you to the test, and they want to see if what you answer is right. So they'll ask you questions that they want a specific answer to. And if you don't give that answer the way they want, you're wrong. You're not legit or something. It's really difficult to get information from someone that's coming from that vibration. And I also, like you had said, I also found myself saying that to the person, but it's really hard for them to understand it because that's kind of how they see it, I guess.
It's their ego, right?
Yeah.
It's all ego. But I think, you said you've done about like probably upwards of 50 readings, which is a lot. Do you find yourself connecting with the records even during like random moments of the day, or maybe like you feel more connected to the Akashic Records just within yourself? Just at moments that you wouldn't expect to get messages or something like that. Like, I don't know if you feel that way at all.
Absolutely. And like right when you said that, I got like a huge like wave of chills too. Because totally that happens all the time where it's like I just notice, like, I don't even have to like for anyone listening that like might be like familiar, there's an opening prayer. So like I'll notice that like I don't even have to like open with like the opening prayer, and I'll be like, wait, I'm definitely like in them. And so like I'll like receive something, and like I'll receive a message about like, it's so fascinating when that comes up. But yeah, I totally notice that I function within them way more frequently than I did before, like as I practice more and more. Like I was even noticing I was at a conference not too long ago, last Monday. I gave a speech at this like women in leadership roles, and like I did not prepare anything. Like all the speakers there had like PowerPoint decks, and I always just like to come from the heart. And I mean, it was a mindfulness like speech, it was a mindfulness talk, and so for me to come, it's way easier for me to come from that authentic place than to talk about mindfulness from like a screen, you know? And so I even noticed that during my talk, I felt like I was just receiving downloads throughout the entire time. Like when people would ask questions, and like I'm listening to the playback of the recording that I have, and I'm like, whoa, like where did that even come from? Like, damn, that is some wise ass shit.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's so awesome. Yeah, and definitely, I think it does make you calm down, ground yourself a little bit more, and maybe tune into the people that are there. So maybe you gave the exact message they needed to hear.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah.
And even like one of the women came up to me after my talk, and she was like, I was so like frazzled when I was one of the first speakers to go. And she was like, I was so worried about being late. And then I found my seat, and you just had such a calming presence about you. And she's like, obviously this like the talk that you gave like ties into that, but like, I just want to let you know, you're really good at what you do, and you do really have that calm presence. So I definitely think it's not just about receiving information, but it's also that feeling of like connectedness and that inner peace and that ease.
Completely.
Yeah, definitely. Now that I have two readers here to speak to, do you guys find that around Christmas time, it's like super active where you won't even think about opening Akashic Records, and it'll just open up a lot randomly around like December? Oh my God, that happens to me so much.
I don't know, because I'm kind of started this year, so I guess I'll be able to tell you when Christmas comes. But I definitely do find myself getting, like last night I woke up at 4 a.m. I usually go to the bathroom, and then I laid back down, and I got some weird messages. Like these people's names came into my head, and I was like, whoa, I actually have them written down, because I don't understand. Like, I don't know. There's just messages coming through randomly during the day. Or when I go to like Kundalini, that's when I get a lot of messages too. Like when I kind of stop a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, same thing with me. December, yeah, I'll need to get back to you on that one too.
Okay. All right, you guys get back to me. I'll be waiting.
But yeah, I think it's just, and I wonder what that might be. I think maybe there's like a little bit more stress around the holidays, that like there's just something, or I don't know if there's something in the stars or the universe, but I do think that people get a little bit more in their heads around the holidays. So I wonder if that has anything to do with that.
it
For
might
sure.
be like hopes are high and families are getting together. Some of them are traveling to be together. They haven't seen each other months. Like maybe there's like a lot of accumulated energy or residual stuff. I don't know. I actually never asked, which seems a little silly. I should probably ask because it's been a few years where I'm like, oh, here comes December. Okay, all right, get ready. Like start preparing myself.
Really?
Yeah, because I'll be in the middle of like I don't know, like a drink or a cocktail or like a semi dinner get together, and my head will start like getting really heavy, and I'll realize that it's open, and I'll just get all these random thoughts and weird things in my head, and I know they're not mine. And I'll be like, oh no, here we go, they opened, and I'm just like channeling all this stuff from everybody around me or something. It activates way more for me, at least for me around that time.
That's weird. It's cool though. It's great that you can just get random messages that might help in some way. Maybe you or someone else. I'm like, even you've channeled random stuff out of nowhere for me or for Joe or for mom or for dad. Like it's cool.
Usually I was
awesome.
during like meditation because you're actually like centered, right?
Yeah. Well, getting a little bit off the topic of Akashic Records, you mentioned earlier about the access bars. I don't know a lot about it. I find it fascinating, and I actually heard it for the first time through our mom. And she said, Lorena, you need to try this or learn this. It's amazing. So maybe you can explain a little bit about what it is to people that might not have any idea.
Yeah, definitely. And so basically, I mean, you have to experience it for yourself to actually understand like what I mean by it. But essentially, it's 32 different points on the head that were originally channeled years ago. And these 32 points, they help release different thoughts, feelings, and emotions that just no longer serve you, but not even at the like conscious level, but at like the root, at the subconscious. And so they kind of go to that point of like where it was first, that like limiting belief where that was like first created. So whether that was it's not, you don't know when you first had a limiting belief come up for you. Like it could have been when you were 5 years old, but it also could have been from another lifetime. So like it helps go to that place and helps release all of those things that no longer serve you. But you don't even have to like try to like rack your brain or think about it. A lot of times with like talk therapy and even coaching, sometimes you still go to like, oh, well, when I was 5 or 6 years old, like my parents went through a divorce. So that must, feed into my feelings of abandonment. So it's like we still kind of try to figure things out when we're talking, but this kind of helps release it on just an energetic level.
It sounds like an amazing tool.
Wow, yeah.
I actually never tried that.
We'll have to try. I'll have to go to Chicago.
Yeah,
I'll
come to Cayman.
Come to Cayman and we can do a little course here for people. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. I am so down to do that.
Yeah.
So is it something else that your mom got you into, or did you discover it from somewhere else?
Yep. Thanks, Mama Bear. She definitely, definitely was the one that got me into it. And it's funny too, because with that, oh my gosh, I resisted it for so long. Like I was always down again, like to be her guinea pig, like have her, it's called running your bars. So I did have her run my bars, but I don't know. I had like such like skepticism about it. Like, but I think in a way it's a good thing to be skeptical about all of this stuff. Like, because I think at the end of the day, like we're not just going to believe it. Like, oh, okay, this is what it is. And like, let's just go for it. Like, no, show me that it works. And then I'll keep practicing it. And so that's kind of how it was for me. And, I totally was like in resistance of it. I'm like, no, this again, like this doesn't work. This doesn't resonate with me. And then and here we are like 5 years later, like now I'm a bars facilitator, like Akashic Records, like consultant reader. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I am in. Like I totally, yeah, I'm in it.
That's Do you remember your experience, like the first time that you got it done to yourself, how you felt during or after?
Yeah. So I think the first time I just completely passed out, like just like, it knocked me out. Like, and that is very common too, because so many times like our cognitive mind can't handle the release. So it's just like, all right, let's just shut you down. And then like, okay, then let's release through that. So yeah, the first time I just like passed right out, and still sometimes I do too. And then, I noticed certain things that used to bother me, like how I would react to certain things. I remember exactly, like I would be like, this used to really set me off, but for whatever reason now I am not triggered by it. And then I used to be, I remember it also helped me at the time, like quit cigarettes too. So there's just like a lot of really random things that can happen. But like my very first time, I was just like, it felt like I had just like woken up from like a night of like really good sleep, and I just felt really relaxed.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. So I guess I imagine myself going to maybe like a session with you. And what do people go and talk to you beforehand? Do they tell you their problems and they kind of tell you what they want to release or let go of? Or how does it work? Is it like Reiki where you lay down? Is it that kind of thing?
Yeah. So sometimes people tell me about like what's going on in their life, what they want solved, and what they hope to get out of it. But at the end of the day, with anything, I feel like the best thing you can do is go into something with no expectations. And so, yeah, definitely it's like helped people with whatever problems they came, and then some too. It's like things that like didn't even realize were like where it was a problem, or maybe they didn't even realize that like for example, so many times like nobody really comes to you about saying, I struggle with receiving money, right? But a lot of people talk about their financial struggle. And so with this there's like a lot of different like money limiting beliefs that we have. Like even one of the points is called money. And so it helps with all of our points of view and anything that we deemed as possible or impossible around money. So it's like it never shows up the way that you think it will. So that's been really interesting to kind of find what is cleared. It's like, people come to you with something, and then something else kind of comes out of it, and then some.
Money's like I think it's a huge thing because we're all from like a generation where our parents, well, maybe not your mom because she sounds pretty down to earth, but like there's a lot of parents who are like, no, you got to work really hard for your money and you got to sweat for it, and money doesn't grow on trees and all those sayings, right, that they say. And so we're kind of like born into this environment where, oh man, I'm gonna have to work really hard if I want to do well. And I think a lot of us carry that with us.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And like we so many times view, I think that's so true and such a good point. It's like, you got to work hard for your money. Like, I feel like we've all kind of heard that. I think like my mom and I have both like done a lot of like clearing around that, but I'm first generation. My mom immigrated here from Russia, Moscow, and like they really had like nothing. And so I think the money beliefs there were again like very much like, oh, like it can be taken away at any moment or something like that. And I think we've done a lot to really like kind of get rid of some of those beliefs and like clear some of those through energy work. And then also, so I know, Lorena, you had asked about like, does somebody come in and just kind of like Reiki session where it's like laying down? Yes. So yeah, you're laying down. I have a massage table, but yeah, it's just like where Reiki is kind of like all over the body. This is just 32 points on the head.
Okay.
So how long are they sitting there and you're touching certain points and then you move to other certain points? How does it work exactly?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like basically each of the different points that represent different bars. And so I'll hold, like, there's one called the implant band. That's where we hold on to all of our shame, blame, guilt, and all of those different like limiting beliefs and doubts. And that is typically held for like 10, 15 minutes. You can hold it for like at least maybe even an hour sometimes. I mean, depends who you're with, obviously, but typically like if a client's coming to me, normal sessions like about an hour or so. So like each of the points I hold for like 5 minutes at a time.
Wow.
Okay.
And do you feel like, I don't know, because I don't know anything really about Access, or I read up a bit beforehand, but is this like a tool that you have to, or like a therapy or a modality that you have to do on a regular basis? Or like, what would you recommend someone that starts with this and has a specific limiting belief they're trying to let go of, or a situation they're trying to deal with? Like, is it every few weeks, a couple times a week? What would be ideal? Or does it depend on the person?
Yeah, so I think it really depends. Like, obviously, I've seen people come into like one class and then they got what they wanted out of it, and whatever, they just kind of keep moving on. But like for me, it's like it's almost like self care for me. Like it's kind of like, well, you can get a massage every once in a while, but that's not going to really create a lasting change. It's like if you actually keep up with it and are consistent with it, that it really does create a change. So I'll notice when I haven't had my bars run for a while, like I just kind of can perceive different things that like latch on or something. Like it almost is like, so I would say I probably have my mom and I trade, or I have a friend who I trade with in the city. It's probably like every couple weeks or so. If like sometimes I'll let it go on like till once a month, but that I can already feel like I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm just like I need something. So it's like definitely become part of like my self-care routine. So I would definitely recommend ideally as often as possible, but like obviously when time is limited, at least like once a month, every couple of weeks.
Man, I wish he was in Holland. So
I know. I was just thinking, like, I want to try it now.
Yeah, I want to totally try out.
Do you channel information when you do that, or do you kind of? Because I know I do Reiki, and I know you kind of let the flow of your hands go, or do you? I don't know how that would work with this. Is it very like intuitive too?
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes I'll have like silent sessions with people, where it's just like, there's no talking or anything. But then let's say I'll like notice certain points really light up. Like they'll feel like there's like extra heat in my fingers on one of the particular points. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, and then they'll start talking to me about a relationship or something. So sometimes talking is involved, but it doesn't have to be. And sometimes it's like really it's like so pragmatic and easy, like that you don't even have to like think about it. You just kind of sit there and just let it flow. It's like it's like we are a vessel of this energy. It's so interesting.
That's amazing.
Cool.
So how long does like if I or anybody were interested in studying access bars and they were in the Chicago area, let's say, how long is the training?
The training is a full day. So like a typical 8-hour day with a break for lunch. So anywhere from like 9 to 5, 10 to 6 or something like that. So basically it consists of 2 trades each. So like so that you actually know what you're doing when you leave the class. So it's like so that you can kind of figure out where the point, like, because everybody gets a chart of where the points are, and so you're able to trade twice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool.
So how like difficult is it to get the hang of it when you're a beginner and learning to get the right? Is it really easy to get the right spots, or do you find that you have to practice a lot to pinpoint the correct area you're supposed to be touching?
I feel like it's super easy, but as adults, like we want to get everything done perfectly. We're like, okay, are we on the right spot? Like, but there's like so many kids that take the classes and they just kind of like put their fingers wherever and like it totally works and they get it right away. But like I think tend to overthink and overanalyze it so that we're like, okay, we like look at exactly like that chart and then like are our fingers on the right spot? And then it's like, are we doing it right? So I think it is really easy, but I think a lot of times we just tend to overthink it.
Yeah, that's so true. Totally.
Very true. Even with the Akashic Records, I feel like we all tend to overthink it when we open our own. But when, like you were saying before, when it's someone else, it just seems to flow more. But that's the ego, the overthinking.
Oh yeah, so true.
Yeah. Yeah, reading other people's Akashic Records is so much easier than reading your own because you're not emotionally involved with the life as long as you're not too close to the person, right? So it's super easy, it just flows.
For sure.
Okay, so let's say that someone's going through this like really difficult point in their life. They feel stuck. They feel like, when you're at the bottom of the bottom and nothing else, nothing's working, nothing's moving. If you had that person, they're coming to you, like what would be the blueprint? How would you carry through to help them out? Or is there any advice that you would give those that are listening, how to start getting themselves out of that hole, or, moving things that have been stuck for a while?
Yeah, so that's such an interesting question because I find that a lot of people that are in that stuck place, they don't even sometimes see a lot of they don't see the way out, you know? So it's like, they almost come to you from this desperation, like, help me. Um, and so I find the first thing that I do with them is just I think just affirm that, where they're at is okay. Like that, under this, coming from the space of understanding and not trying to fix where they're at. Because I think they're searching for somebody sometimes to fix them. It's like, listen, you're not broken. I don't think you're broken. I don't think you need any sort of fixing, but let's actually work, let's do this thing together and let's kind of map out this path. And so kind of speaking to your blueprint, I don't think there's one set way of climbing a mountain, but just recognizing that it's hey, we're in this together and we're going to climb this thing together. I think always kind of helps somebody realize okay, well, if I'm not trying to climb this mountain by myself, I think that is already one step further along than where they came from. And so sometimes people come to me oh, I don't know where to start or what to do. Well, let's just explore. Let's play. Let's not try to take this too seriously. I get it. This is your life and everything, but let's incorporate some fun and some play into this, because I think you get into that stuck place when you keep digging yourself deeper into this hole, and just helping them recognize that they have a choice in this, that it's okay, I think there's so many, it sounds cliche, you create your reality, but I think there's so much truth to that. You are responsible for the reality that you create. You might not always be able to control what happens to you, but you are totally in control of what you do next.
Completely agree. So true. Very well said. I love that. And especially as a coach, I'm sure that you work very closely with people, so you're able to really connect with them on a level that maybe with just one Akashic Records reading, it wouldn't maybe quite be the same. You work with them with maybe different modalities and different techniques. So that probably helps you really get closer and understand people and really help them heal, for sure.
Oh yeah, I think so. I so much. I agree with that so much, because I think it really does take incorporating something different sometimes to really do what you want to do. That's kind of it. I think that it works with me, at least. And I feel we attract people that are very similar to us. Maybe we're just further along on our journey. So it's for me, I tried so many different things to get to where I am today, that it totally makes sense why people would be I've tried this, I've tried therapy, I've tried this, versus okay, well, there's so many things out there. How do you really see what resonates? It's okay, you just have to try it out and see what lands.
So do you get more people that are coming to you for career changes, or I keep attracting the wrong partner, or is there a more common theme you find that arrives, for assistance?
Yeah, so I think it's both of those things. I think a lot of times it's the things that I've already kind of gone through. So it was the career change, oh, I wasn't feeling fulfilled in my career. So people are oh, help me navigate this. And then I have a pattern of attracting, certain patterns within partners. So it's like sometimes people will be like, wait, I've been attracting so-and-so kind of partner in my life. Like, can you help me navigate this? So, and then similarly with more, I would say I probably pivoted into business coaching probably within like the past 6 to 8 months. And so I've had women come to me from saying like, oh, I actually want to start my own business. I want to start my own coaching business. Like, can you help me do that? So it kind of is like all of the things that I've already gone through that people usually come to me with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
That's amazing. That's so cool that you were able to like shift and kind of adapt to whatever comes to you too, because that's good. And you never know, like even with the Akashic Records, when you get a reading, you might find things and layers of things. Maybe that's where you're at too sometimes, right? Where it's like, oh, today you work more with the Akashic Records, tomorrow you might be doing more of other therapies, or maybe you just might be coaching people through emotional things or business things. Like that's super dynamic. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. And like so many times I think like in this industry, people say like, oh, you should niche down and like, you know, be industry specific or something. And it's like, I go against that paradigm in a way, like saying like, well, listen, like I am me, and like whatever shows up, whatever I attract that's where I'm going to go. And like, cause it's like, a lot of times it's like this reality sometimes tells you that you should be doing things a certain way. And it's like, well, I say, well, I tried it to do it that way. It didn't really work for me. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any more questions you want to ask, Lou, but I think
we covered most of what I wanted to ask her. I was just really, really excited to hear about the Access bars because I had never heard about it till we prepared to interview her. And also, you've popped our interview cherry.
Yeah, you're the first interview.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited. I love that.
Always making people go one step further. You're just already from a distance and everything.
Before we end the episode, though, maybe you can tell people where they can find you and kind of reach out to you, be it for coaching or the Access bars, training, or even Akashic Records readings. Maybe if you can kind of give them a little rundown, and then we'll also include that in the show notes, but I just want to make sure that gets kind of out there for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So y'all can find me on my website is rayofconsciousness.com, and which is my company. And then also Instagram is great. It's just Rachel.Gitlevich. And yeah, feel free to reach out on any of those platforms. I think I have like a contact me through my website, as well as, you know, feel free to kind of give it a follow on Instagram, but would love to keep in touch with anybody that's interested in learning more. Akashic Records, as we know, it can be done through distance. Access bars is local, but if you want me to come to your city, I'm down to do that too. So
I want you to come to my city.
Mine too.
Yeah. So you got to go to the Cayman Islands and Holland now.
Oh, amazing. That sounds amazing.
We will do something though together one day, I'm sure.
That sounds amazing. I would love to.
Yeah, we should do like a retreat or something. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, if we were to dump you on a deserted island and you're all alone, you have provided for you food and water, but you can only take 3 things with you. What 3 things will you be taking with you to that island?
Oh my goodness. Let me think about that. So I would honestly, I'd bring my cat. Like, I don't know how logical it would be, but I'd totally bring him because I think at least being on a deserted island, I'd be like, all right, like at least we have each other. And I would say, I mean, shoot, I would try to even bring my best friend with me and be like, yo, let's like start this island thing together. And,
okay, so your best friend and your cat are going, and you can take one more thing.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Mom, I don't know if you want to come or not, but like, I think I'll I'll probably take maybe like something that can like last me with like water and food. So like, I don't know, some like sort of, I think maybe like a way to like make a fire or something. Like I'm just imagining that this like island is probably luscious. So like hopefully there's like some food around. So maybe just like something to like make kindle like fire. Like, yeah, I'll bring a lighter or something.
Perfect. Okay.
I love it.
The cat, the best friend, and the lighter. All right.
And I'm sure your best friend will help you like start the fire. So
yeah, we'll figure it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. We really enjoyed interviewing you and listening to, all your stories and learning more about the Access bars. It's really, really interesting. And I'm definitely going to try it. Hopefully there's someone that does it here, but I don't think so. I've never heard of it at least. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for
having me on.
Coming on with us.
Such an honor and a pleasure, and glad I could be your first. I feel honored.
We love you.
Love you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode. And thank you so much, Rachel, for taking the time to come onto the podcast and talk about the Akashic Records, Access bars, and your journey. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will feel very inspired with your story and what you do and what kind of motivates you to help others. So make sure you're following Rachel on Instagram. Her Instagram handles on the show notes, as well as her website and LinkedIn. And yeah, make sure you're following the Soul Tribe podcast on Instagram as well. Our Instagram handles at soul_tribe_podcast. We have some very exciting interviews coming up, guys, so you won't want to miss it. And we'll keep you updated on the Instagram. But in the meantime, I hope you guys all have a great week. Be sure to share the episode if you know anybody that might benefit from this information, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.